many cases. So it's very hard to actually bring an indictment against police officers. We know that. I mean, we looked at Salt Lake City, Utah, there have been 9 use of force incidents so far this year by the police, but only 1 was recorded on police body camera. And even the Salt Lake City police chief there, he told us that these cameras will not reduce use of force incidents, but hopefully they can bring about accountability. I mean, that's what everybody's hoping for, but the problem is that policies, body camera policies in many departments don't even exist yet. In the places that policies do exist, they're not always enforced.
One of the things that just doesn't make any sense to me when I hear is that when an officer gets a call or goes on, he has to turn his body camera on. Well, that's absurd. These things happen in a moment's notice. You want the officer to say, "Hold on a second, Mr. Bad Guy, let me turn my camera on while I chase you down the street"?
Well, and that's an issue that many police departments, police officers have had with these cameras. They say that I have to react as quickly as possible. I might not be able to turn on my camera. So that raises another question: why don't these cameras just, why aren't they rolling for the whole time that an officer is on the job? But the other issue is, just accountability. I mean, that's what I think everybody is hoping for. But the problem is that the policies have just not caught up to the technology yet. And the other thing is, we can't see these body camera videos a lot of times. It's not a public record nationwide. So it's a tricky, complex.
Why can't we see them? Because why can't we see them? They're not giving them to us, or they don't fall under the Sunshine Law? Why is that?
Many departments will not hand them over. They do not fit under public record policies. I mean, again, this is new technology. So what we're seeing is that the policies reacting to that technology are still in development. I mean, many departments just getting body cameras now are rushing to try to wrap their heads around the policies for these things. And I will say that when we looked at New Orleans police, we've had dash camera video for over a decade, but when it comes to body cameras and dash camera video, an independent monitor report there found that the cameras were off 60% of the time. So it's not just body cameras. We're looking at cameras being a problem for a long time.
What about number of complaints? Have they fallen because of the departments that you studied? Did complaints by the public, did they fall, knowing that they had the body cameras?
It's really hard to have an answer to that. I mean, we asked. But what we saw was that the citizen complaints that do exist, do not necessarily result in discipline of officers. I mean, when we looked at Albuquerque, New Mexico, we found that 60 times officers violated policies 60 times last year, and only one officer in Albuquerque was fired after not having his camera on for 4 times, and when he shot a 19-year-old in April, he had his camera off. And so, after repeated violations and a full internal affairs investigation, he was fired just this week. But that is the rare case we found. I mean, we really could not see nationwide police officers being fired or even suspended for a serious amount of time for a body camera violation.
Let me ask the question that there are some people out there screaming for me to ask, and that is, why are these cameras off all the time? Do the police officers not turn them on purposely so that we can't see what they're doing? What's the reason for these cameras never being on?
I mean, we don't know, and we can't say that they're not on, a lot of the time. It's just that, they're either not capturing what we need to see, or they could claim malfunction. So it's very tricky. I mean, in Fort Worth, Texas, there were all these allegations against police officers this year, but they told us that all the allegations against police officers, with or without the cameras, well, they were found to be unjustified. Those allegations were all to be found unjustified, and all the officers were cleared. So, but I think that the point we want to make, too, though, is that a lot of police officers are trying to do the right thing, and so maybe it's not surprising that a lot of the data will clear police officers, but it's not a cure-all. That's really the point here, that body cameras are not a cure-all, and policies for the use of these body cameras have to be enforced. Officers have to be held accountable, and they really the video footage should be a public record. And right now, that's not happening.
Well, but you have to question the public record. How much is a public record? Is the guy's lunch break a public record? Is the guy going to see his daughter's softball game? Is that public record? I mean, he parks the car in his driveway. Is that public record? So the bad guys know where the police officers live. So there is some limits to what video footage should be out there.
And that is totally a fair point. And I think the real issue here is the use of force incidents and the police-involved shootings. When those things happen, that footage, people now more than ever are demanding to see what happened. And when you're relying on an internal affairs investigation that nobody can see, and the footage is maybe even non-existent or partial. Yeah. There are a lot of questions, and there are a lot of angry people out there. Citizens want to know.
Dan Lieberman, ABC News Fusion correspondent, with an interesting study over 3 months. Dan, where can we read more about the study?
Please check it out at fusion.net. We have a full story there, and there's videos you can watch, body camera footage, the whole thing, and we'll be staying on the story.
Fusion.net. Dan, thanks for checking in.
Thank you.
7:30 here, Big 5.